due to the COVID-19 pandemic. They are working to reduce the spread of the virus, and so have moved all of their conversations into this online space. So we ask for a little bit of grace. This is the first time working through this, and so we just want to say thank you again for all of you to give with all of us and being willing to share your perspectives and share your experiences. Couple little more other things I want to tell you about as we get going. Some of you may spend a ton in this online space. For some of you, this might be your very first time joining a Zoom call. To that end, we really want to make sure that you can use the technology really comfortably, everyone. We do have a technical support person. His name is David, and we are going to put his cell phone number, everyone, in the chat right now. So if at any point in time you're struggling with technology or things aren't working the way you're expecting them to, Margaret, if you can go ahead and put that number in the chat right now, everyone. It's a 442 number, but it is local, just in case you're not familiar with that area code. It is a local number, and you can give David a call. Just as a quick reminder, everyone, there is generally, if you're on a desktop or a laptop, along the bottom of your screen is a toolbar. It's got a number of different features that you can use, including a chat, everyone. So there is some chat coming into me right now. This is a place for you to share questions. This is a place I'm going to ask you to give some feedback and some commentary. There's lots of opportunity to do that in the chat, and we'll get a chance to give that a try. Everyone, we also are going to use some polls throughout this conversation tonight. And when we get to those polls, we'll be asking you to give your feedback. We'll also be sharing back. Everyone can see sort of how the conversation is progressing. Couple of last little housekeeping items, everyone. You will notice that we are recording. We're recording the meeting. We want to ensure that we capture as much information and feedback as we possibly can. And so we are recording this session and wanted to make sure that you knew that that was happening. So let's try out a couple of these pieces of technology, everyone. We're curious to hear from everyone who's joined us so far, what district of the city you might be joining us from this evening. Now, I know that the districts are new for some people, so just give me 1 second. Everyone, I'm going to try to drive here in Zoom and talk at the same time. I would like to ask you what district all of you have come from. And we're going to bring up a poll right away for you to answer. But I just want to show the map here first so you can get a sense of tonight. The intention was for people to come from District 2, which is in the blue, but we can appreciate that maybe there are some people who couldn't make the other meetings and wanted to come to this meeting. So wanted to show you the map just so that you could orient yourself to some of the different districts. And so Margaret, could we bring up that poll to hear back from people what district they've come from? So everyone, you will notice that a pop-up window has come up and it's asking, what city council district do you live in or do you have a business in? Some of you might live in one or have a business in one. So just pick one of those things for you. And if you can answer for us, which district are you coming from? And we've still got lots of people who are answering here, everyone. So I'm just going to give you a quick moment just to make sure that people have a chance to respond. Just wait another couple of moments here. All right, it looks like many people have responded. So Margaret, let's go ahead and end that poll. And if we can also go back and share those results so that everyone can get a sense of who's here. So it looks like we've got quite a few people from District 2. We've got a few people from District 1 and 3, and then we've also got some others from District 4. We do also have someone joining us tonight that isn't from Carlsbad. So to everyone, once again, a welcome to all of you. Here's the other piece of equipment I wanted to give a try, as well as I wanted to get a sense from all of you what brought you to the conversation tonight. So, Margaret, we can stop sharing that. We can stop sharing that poll. And everyone, I'd like to give a try in the chat box here, everyone. I'd love for you to share with us right now in that chat box what brought you out to the meeting this evening, or maybe another way to say it, what are your hopes or what are your expectations for the conversation that we're going to have tonight? So, one more time, everyone, what brought you out to the meeting this evening? Or maybe what are your hopes or what are your expectations for the conversation? And I've got that question on a slide here, everyone, just in case it's easier for you to read it. Just give me one moment, just so that you can see. Again, curious to hear, and if you can respond in the chat box for us, what brought you to the session tonight or today, and what are some of your hopes or expectations for the conversation to come? And I'm seeing lots of messages coming in here, everyone. So I'm just going to wait for a moment. Yes, everyone, I'm going to do my best to read out lots of these responses as they are coming in here. So some people are saying, I'd like to discuss the changing culture of policing. Want to get into some of that conversation. We'll see if we've got some others here that come in. We'll just give you a moment or so. I still see lots of people typing, so I will just wait a couple of moments, see if we've got some other things that are coming up. Again, what brought you to the meeting tonight, or what were some of your hopes for this conversation? All right, we've got lots of things coming in here. Some people are sharing things like there's been a recent dialogue on policing methods and really want to understand Carlsbad's approach. We've got some other people who are sharing. I'm a lifelong resident and advocate, activist in Carlsbad. Really want to show to council how important civilians oversight is and how valuable it can be to keeping people safer. So thank you, everyone, for sharing some of those things. We will certainly get an opportunity to dig into some of those. So everyone, I promise you're only going to need to listen to me talk just a little bit longer here, everyone, and then we're going to get into some more questions and hear back from you. Let me just give you a quick overview, everyone, of some of the things that have brought us to today. Just give me a moment. A couple of pieces of background that we wanted to share with you. We know, as mentioned here in the chat, that law enforcement has very much become a topic of national conversation. We also know that last year, City Council was discussing many of the issues related to police policies. And one of those topics that came up was civilian oversight. Members of City Council, as well as the police department, have heard some feedback from organized groups about their experiences and perspectives related to local law enforcement. To that end, everyone, there was a meeting in October where City Council asked staff to gather input from the community about civilian oversight. A couple of other things, as we discussed here, Carlsbad has recently transitioned into moving into districts. And so that's why we've organized the meetings this way. We want to get a sense of, is it the experience is the same between different districts, or is it different between different districts? So, again, tonight, everyone, this conversation is very much about understanding citizen perspectives, trying to get an appreciation for people's opinions and perspectives around civilian oversight. So we've got a couple more questions for you, everyone. We're going to use that poll again just to sort of get us warmed up here, everyone. Let's bring up that next poll, Margaret. We are curious, everyone, to hear a couple of things from you. We're curious to hear from you. How do you get most of your information, or how do you get most of your knowledge related to police or policing services? We're curious, does it come from local media? Does it come from social media? Maybe it comes from community groups that you've been a part of. Does it come from friends or family? Maybe you have some personal experiences. Maybe it comes from neighbors. So, just curious to hear from all of you. Where do you get most of your information from police or policing services? I do see everyone that we've had a few new people join our meeting as we're getting started here. So everyone, we're just doing a little bit of introduction and background and overview. We've got a few polls here that we're asking people to answer, just to get a sense of what people know, and then we will get into some more conversation as we go. I know one person in the chat box, everyone was saying, is that that they actually get lots of their information not from any one of the categories that we've offered here, but actually that they've got personal experiences, or that they've got a direct connection to the Carlsbad Police Force, and that's where they get their information. Some other people are saying that they get lots of their knowledge from scholarly articles or studies. So some people are getting that there. So thank you everyone for continuing to share. I will do my best to see if I can bounce back and forth between the poll that we've got, as well as some of the comments that some of you are sharing. So let's end that poll, Margaret. I think we've got lots of people who've responded. Everyone, let's just share back some of the results that came out here. All right. So I'm just making sure just making sure that everyone can see the poll results. If you can, everyone, can you give me a thumbs up? I just want to make sure that you can see them. Okay, good. So it looks like lots of people get knowledge from local media, certainly some from social media, and then others from community groups, and some of those things that people had shared in the chat. Great. I got a couple more questions for you, everyone. Margaret, let's bring down that poll. And I'd love to bring up our next poll, everyone. Here's my question for you. I'm curious to hear from all of you on the call right now about how would you describe, I'll just wait till our poll comes up here. Margaret, if you want to bring up that next one. All right. Curious, everyone, how would you describe your overall level of trust that the Carlsbad Police Department is serving the community well? So just curious to get a sense of that level of trust in the police department as it is right now. This is certainly not to say that there aren't opportunities for improvement or to, potentially make changes, but just curious to get a sense from people, your level of trust that the Carlsbad Police Department is serving the community well. And I'll just give everyone a few minutes. I still see a couple of people are responding, so just want to give you a moment to make sure that everyone who's wanted to respond had the opportunity to. All right, it looks like we've got most of our people who are responding. Margaret, let's go ahead and close that poll, and let's share those results back with everyone so that you have a chance to see. So everyone, we've got a combination here. We've got some people who've responded that they have a very low level of trust right now. We've got some people that are maybe neutral or in the middle, and then we've got some other people who have shared that they actually have a very high level of trust, or a very high level of trust. So again, thank you everyone. This is helpful to give us a sense of sort of where people are at and get us a bit warmed up. All right, let's carry on here. I do have one more question, everyone, that I'd love for you to share some answers in the chat box with me here again, everyone. I'm curious about, and let me bring up my screen here again, everyone. Humor me while it just takes me a moment to move between one to the next. I'm curious to hear a little bit from all of you in the chat. What do you think are some of the challenges facing police officers, or what are some of the challenges facing policing in our current state? So curious to hear from you, from what you know, from what you've experienced so far, what do you think are some of the challenges that are either faced by police officers, or what are some of the challenges facing policing in our current time? And I see I see a few messages coming in here, everyone. So just give me a moment. I'm going to make sure that I share back with you some of the things that are coming in. Some people are saying things that, we're expecting our officers to be arbitrators of justice on the street level, and maybe that they aren't trained for that. Some other people are sharing things like police officers are encountering addiction or mental illness, and maybe again that isn't their area of expertise or knowledge. Some other people are sharing things like worried about an extreme left being the extreme left being the biggest threat to our police force being able to do their job. Some people also talking about, so this extremities, right? Worries about extreme on left or extreme on right, and how that might shift or change things. People are also talking about, having to again encounter support, working with people with mental illness, domestic violence. People here are talking about domestic terrorists, those sorts of things. So lots of challenges that are out there right now that we're needing to work through. A couple of other ones, everyone, just let me share with you. People talking about compassionate handling of people who are experiencing homelessness. Some other challenges, evaluations and hiring expectations. That's a challenge that we're working with. Being friendly and firm is a fine line, and there's a treading between those two things that again people would need to be faced with. Um, People are talking about improvement in police de-escalation of situations. So again, really appreciate everyone, all of these comments that are coming in. We're recording all of these things, and I'm sharing them back with you so that they set the stage. In a few minutes here, everyone, we're actually going to move into some small breakout discussions so that you won't have to sit and listen to me all night, everyone, where you'll get the opportunity to actually spend some time with some of our team members, as well as you'll have the chance to talk with other members of the community. So know that that's coming. Know that that's coming up here, everyone. Let me ask a couple of other questions. Some of you might be really familiar with civilian oversight of police. Some of you, this might be sort of a newer concept. I'm going to tell you just a little bit, but just before I tell you a bit more, I'm actually curious to hear from all of you. Again, if you wouldn't mind putting some of this in the chat box for me, in your own words, what is civilian oversight? Based on what you know, what you've heard so far about it, or maybe what you've experienced. And again, everyone, I'll bring this up on my screen here so that you can see it. Curious to hear from you. What is civilian oversight of police? Or what's the purpose that you understand it's supposed to serve? So again, curious to hear, knowing that there's probably lots of questions and maybe there's still lots of things that people are curious about. But right now, based on what you know from your own experience, what is civilian oversight and what purpose does it serve? I'll just stop talking there for a moment, everyone. Give you a chance to think that through. From what you know already, what is civilian oversight, and what are some of the purposes or maybe some of the goals that it serves? Some people are responding here, everyone. Let me tell you some of the stuff that's coming out. We can build a better community, and we can build it safely together, so that we can all be there for each other. Some other people are sharing it's about reviewing police actions, especially when citizens complain. Maybe they can identify some bad actors, or they could also identify some unfounded claims. People are also sharing things like, hang on, just make sure I don't miss them here, as civilians are involved in setting expectations or parameters around disciplinary actions or expectations if those aren't met. Some people also sharing civilian oversight boards provide input into police practices. They can also act as independent watchdogs to ensure that, again, the community is being looked after. Also, people are talking about, every police call could be seen as a societal failure. And so, how do we work together to address some of these failures or some of these situations that are in front of us? Thank you, everyone, for sharing a little bit of that. I wanted just to kind of warm up your thinking just a little bit by hearing from some others. Let me tell you a little bit about what the city of Carlsbad, after they were working, after some questions from city council, they went and did quite a bit of research and went and did some looking at, what's happening with police oversight in different communities and different places across the nation. This information was shared back with city council. You certainly have the opportunity to watch a much longer presentation, everyone, of that session that was with city council. Let me give you the highlights of some of the things that were shared in that session. Again, everyone, just humor me here for a moment while I bring up some slides so you can listen and see at the same time. Here are some of the really common reasons why a police department may want to bring in civilian oversight. It maybe there are incidents or patterns of misconduct. Maybe there are some calls for reform or there's a lack of public trust. Maybe there's just a real desire to foster some productive public dialogue or productive conversations. And really, this sort of overarching idea that a community with confidence in its police department really is a safer community. So those are some common reasons why other cities have maybe chosen to go this route. Let me tell you just a little bit about, now there's many different ways that you can provide civilian oversight. In some of the comments that people shared earlier, they were starting to describe what some of those were. Big picture, everyone, there's lots of nuances here. There's sort of major types. So there can be commissions that have broad powers that would support civilian oversight. Sometimes there can be solely focused on an independent investigation agency, sort of looking into what's happening or why it's happening. There also are commonly advisory panels or advisory committees that might serve in this function. And then certainly there also can be a combination of all of these types of civilian oversight. I really just want to add here, everyone, that at this point in time, there is no sort of plan as to which direction or sort of what's happening in this situation. These are just like what's out there and trying to understand. Again, is there a need, and what would that look like if we were to move forward? Last little bit of information, everyone, I wanted to offer was wanted to talk to you or share with you just a little bit about what I shared with you some of the reasons why we might bring in civilian oversight. Now I want to talk about what could it create as a result of bringing this in. Certainly, there's an opportunity to build trust. That the police officers and organization could get some advice or guidance from community members. There's an opportunity to really engage community members in this, providing a public forum for conversation, deterring misconduct, improving accountability, lots of different reasons why a police department might want to move forward in this way. All right. So let me stop here for a moment. I promised you that I would soon wrap up some of my information because really so far I've been doing most of the talking, and we really would love to for me to stop talking and for all of you to start. So here's where I want to go next, everyone. I have one last poll, and then we're going to break out into some conversations again where you'll have the opportunity to talk with some others. So let's bring up, Margaret, that very last poll. And once we bring up that last poll, then we'll move in. So again, everyone, appreciating that there's lots of questions still, still answers to be figured out, but knowing what you know right now, appreciating that there could be more. Based on your experience, what's the level of need for civilian oversight within Carlsbad Police Department? Is it not really valuable and it's not needed? Is it somewhere in the middle? Like, yeah, it'd be valuable and I think it's needed. Or maybe others would say, like, this would be very valuable and very much needed. Again, everyone, this is we're early stages, but just trying to get a sense of, the value that people see or the need that people would see. Lots of people are still responding here, everyone. So I will just wait a couple of moments so that people have the opportunity to respond. All right. It looks like most of our people have had a chance to respond to the poll. Once again, Margaret, if you could take down that poll and if you could share those results with everyone. So here's what we saw. Everyone, here's how you responded. We've got a combination of people who see value and need. So certainly some people who aren't seeing the need for it, or maybe there's a limited need. Some people who are right in the middle, and then definitely some people who are on the call said, yeah, actually, we really see value and we definitely see a need for something like this. So thank you, everyone. That gives us a good sense of a place to get started. Yes, certainly. A few of our participants, everyone, are doing some quick math, and so thank you. For sharing that math is not always my strong point right off the hop. So yes, we definitely have lots of a big percentage of people on this call who have said that they see value and that they see need in something like this. All right, so let's stop sharing those results. Here's what happens, everyone. Two big questions that I would like you to dig into when you head into those breakout rooms, everyone. Give me a moment. Here I come. Two questions that we'd like you to talk about when you land in with a group of other people. We're curious about, again, let's go back to if you see a need for civilian oversight, we want you to talk a little bit about what's driving that need, or tell us a bit about maybe some of the problems or issues or concerns. And maybe also let me add in, what are maybe some of the opportunities that you see that would civilian oversight could build on? So if you see a need, what's driving that need? As well as maybe what are some of the potential unintended consequences that may come from bringing in civilian oversight. Everyone, these questions will be available again when you land in those breakout groups. So don't worry about remembering them. We will share them with you again. But again, we want to, when you land in there, this is a conversation about if you see the need, tell us a bit more. How come? Like, where is that coming from? Help us understand from your perspective the value. On the flip side, if maybe you don't see a need for it, or for you it doesn't feel like valuable, we're also curious to hear that from you. Here's my last request, everyone, before we start. We're all different people. We all have different experiences and we come from different places. And so I'd really love that when you land into these conversations that you share what's really important to you, and you're also willing to hear and listen to what's really important to other people, so that we have a really sort of constructive and productive conversation together, respecting that we might see the world totally different from somebody else. So that's my request for all of you as you go in. All right, those of you that I can see on camera right now, if you can give me a thumbs up that we know what we're doing and where we're headed. Yes, it looks like I've got some thumbs up. All right, I just want to make sure I have not confused everyone. If you haven't gone into a Zoom breakout room, there's going to be a little window that pops up, everyone. There's going to be a button that says join. You can join the room. You will have a city staff person there that is going to guide the conversation, and they will also be taking lots of notes when you land in that room. And I'll let you know, everyone, when it's time to come back. All right. So Margaret, if you can bring up those breakout rooms, everyone, you should have a pop-up window. If you don't, just hang out here and I'll help you make sure you get in the rooms. Just before we get to sharing back, wanted to tell you about a little lesson we learned. We know, everyone, that when breakout groups happen, a lot of people drop off. Some people go, I just wanted to listen, or maybe they didn't feel comfortable. Quite a few more than we expected dropped off. So we had you all organized in groups of about 4 or 5, and then some of you ended up in a room of 1 or a room of 2. So to those of you that transitioned, thank you for your patience. And we live and we learn in this Zoom world. So again, thank you for your patience, and we will know that there definitely is a potential drop off. So to that end, though, you're here and you're curious about what happened. So I'm going to just check in with some of my table facilitators. I'm just looking around. Fabiola, how about we come to you first? Would you mind giving us a few highlights of some of the things you talked about?
Sure. One of the main themes that I heard throughout the session was that this group, the civilian oversight, is mainly to create a balance, and it's to keep checks and balances and be fair for both police and hear what the community has to say. It's to bridge a divide. And I also heard that it's an anomaly to not have one in a city, and the city of Carlsbad is one of those cities. Civilian oversight will only help to get conversations started and bring more diversity into the city culture, and also help make things better. And that is something that everyone seemed to want. The other thing that I would like to highlight is that they also said that they would like to create more transparency, and this is something that might help increase that transparency and trust. And of course, the selection of these people should also be a screen process or have some sort of system, so that way it is a fair system for everyone. And those are my main highlights.
Thanks, Fabiola. Excellent. I appreciate the report out. Carrie, checking in with you. Did you have
You cut off a little bit, but I think I'll take it away.
Yes.
So our group had a serious focus on resource officers at the school district, and working and trying to get a balance between the resource officers, the police department, the school district, the parents, and specifically as related to children and students that are learning disabled, and some of the challenges that are faced, and where the police officers are oftentimes perceived to be being used as psychologists and counselors when they're not trained for something like that. There was concerns about that. As Fabiola said, making sure that a citizens oversight committee would help ensure transparency, protecting the officers as well. And then one of the concerns was, if we do have a citizens oversight committee, it could create a level of hesitancy for the officers, that they aren't able to act as quickly in a situation where there needs quick action. Also the idea of making sure that there was significant training and resources made available to the police to help them with de-escalation of incidents, to help prevent unnecessary harm, or I guess I'll say that, to the people involved when that level was not needed.
Thank you, Carrie. Thanks for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Fiona, I think you also had a group. Why don't we come over to you next?
Hi, sure. I'm happy to share, summarize our conversations. Our group thought that, especially given recent national events, a civilian oversight committee sounds like a good idea. I think each of the people in our group all agreed that open and transparent communication is always a good thing. We also talked about how civilian oversight can ensure that police services are staying aligned with what the community believes and supports, and that, let's see, also talked about how Carlsbad's a really tight-knit community, and that we've all seen issues that would have benefited from civilian oversight, and that police training really needs to reciprocate and reflect the community it serves, and also the times, like the times in history as well.
Thank you,
And
Fiona.
then, did you want me to talk about the unintended consequences as well?
Yeah, please. Yeah, give us some highlights.
Sure. So everyone in our group acknowledged that policing is not an easy job, and that sometimes civilians might not understand enough to have a fair perspective, which could be good or bad with civilian oversight. And also worry about militarizing the police, but believe that the benefits outweigh the risks. And also some concern about how a civilian oversight could slow down the process of policing. And as one of our members is a member of a local advocacy group, and they advocate for community input, but not extensive oversight or like a power play against the police. And again, open dialogue's good, and that Carlsbad has the ability to have transparent communication and open dialogue.
Great. Thanks for the overview, Fiona. Let me hop down to Craddock. I think you also had a group of people with you. Am I right?
Yes.
Right, Craddock.
Our group talked about citizen oversight groups being a balance, helping it to achieve a balance between the community and the police department in terms of establishing trust, and that it goes both ways. You know, that perhaps a certain level of oversight would be beneficial to police officers, as well as providing a level of transparency to the community. We talked a lot about the availability of data, demographics that are collected on stops, for example. Statistics would be helpful to provide to the community, particularly regarding some of the more troubling incidents that have occurred recently. And as someone mentioned, a concern about the sort of national events bleeding into that, and perhaps a oversight committee could to address some of those problems before they become larger issues in our community. Although you know, the group acknowledged that, you know, Carlsbad doesn't appear to have, you know, as many problems or perhaps as severe problems as some other communities. We are seeing these types of these oversight committees being formed in other communities, and you know, perhaps it would be prudent for the city to do something similar. We talked about the accountability piece, and perhaps it would be interesting to find out if the police would have an interest in the community overlooking their activities, and perhaps, you know, providing some input into whether or not some of those activities are, you know, appropriate for police to address. Maybe there's other ways for these activities to be addressed, or there's other resources that could be worked on, and just kind of emphasizing that it really has to be a balanced approach, that we don't place value judgments on anything that's uncovered through such a committee, but that, you know, it's just really about sharing information in a transparent way. And then the idea that the citizen board would not have to oversee every single complaint, that perhaps there would be some kind of criteria that would warrant, that would explain what warrants investigation by the committee. And then just to finish up, we just talked a little bit about the unintended consequence of police unions and how they might respond to such committees. On one hand, it may make them more defensive. On the other hand, perhaps it would be to their benefit to have a more open process.
Thanks, Craddock. Thank you. All right, everyone, we've got two last groups, I believe, to hear from here. So Melba, let's come over to you. I think you had a group as well.
Correct, yes. So the things that we discussed in our group, it was more about finding out why or how why the civilian oversight will be needed, and how you also distribute policing more equitably. And both of the people who shared their thoughts in our group were more in an exploratory capacity, more like trying to learn more about what's going on, and then determine if there is a need for civilian oversight. It was highlighted that the experience has always been positive with Carlsbad Police Department. And they were also interested in hearing what other people had to say. One of the unintended consequences that was brought about was, caring too much about what the Civilian Oversight Committee had to say or opinion, and respond more to those pressures than the job that needs to get done. So that was listed as an unintentional consequence. So more worried about the perception than the actual job and what needs to get done.
Yeah. Thank you, Melba. Thank you for that. And Sarah, I believe you are our last group to hear back from.
Yes, and I had a lovely group of one with me, but we had a nice conversation. Some similar things that I think we've already heard. One of the things they did share as a driving need is the social unrest that they observed over the last year. Made them think or wonder about police officer safety and wonder what kind of training police officers have to deal with some of the more social service or mental health type situations. Thought that a civilian oversight committee could help address false allegations or complaints, as well as address allegations of excessive force and help protect the city from potential lawsuits. And really thought that having a civilian oversight committee could help bridge police officers more with the community and help provide increased outreach, which was something that they felt could be beneficial to the community. And in terms of unintended consequences, I heard they're concerned about bureaucracy, as well as, again, slowing down the decision-making process, that forming the committee could be too broad of a group, or really just brought to existence just to really pave things over and not really hold police accountable. Also want to make sure that people who would be brought in are professional and don't have their own agenda, because that could have some negative consequences on the community at large. And that's just a broad overview of what we chatted about.
All right. Thank you. Now I'm just checking. There was a couple of other groups, but I don't think that we maybe had active participants in those groups. So just this is a last call from my other facilitators. Did I miss anyone? Just checking.
Tom, I think, had a person in his group too, even as a smaller group, right, Tom?
Yes. If I may?
Yes, please go ahead.
We had a good discussion with the one person in my group, and it might have another person, but we couldn't get them to ring through, or he or she had problems. But the discussion we had was a different thing. The community member I spoke to expressed a concern about what she felt was a loss of safety in Carlsbad. And her opinion was really that she did not see a need for civilian oversight so much. She believed the focus should be on trying to make it the safe community she felt it used to be. She did say there'd always be a bad apple, but she did not see the need for civilians to be involved in that, and felt that the existing police procedures and standards and other methods set up to police the police were adequate.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. All right, everyone. So hopefully that gives you at least a flavor for what was happening in all of those other sessions. Let me tell you a little bit, everyone, about where to from here, and sort of what happens with all of data that we're collecting. If you didn't see everyone, we're also have an online survey available to people. If you haven't checked it out yet, we encourage you to do that. You'll notice very similar questions that we asked you tonight. Obviously worded just a bit different to align with a survey format as opposed to a discussion like we were having today. But we encourage you to check out the survey. If you know an event or maybe don't, we invite you to remind them about the online survey opportunity. We've got 3 more events, everyone, happening after this. They will be the same as what we're doing tonight, but we're offering them to other districts in the city. So a number of events to come. We will be collecting all of that information, everyone, both the survey as well as as well as these events, and putting it together and finding out where do we see the themes, what's the same with all the feedback, maybe what's different with all the feedback, and that will be shared publicly afterwards. And it also will be shared with your city council members. So know that it is, it's going back there. Mayor Pro Tem Blackburn, I'm going to come to you just in a moment. Everyone, just before I turn it over, though, this was our very first session online, everyone. And I know that there's things that we can improve, that we can change, all of those sorts of things to make sure that we're meeting those needs. I'd love for you in the chat box right now, if you've got ideas, if you have suggestions like, Kim, this was great, do more of it. Oh my gosh, this did not work at all, do less of this. So feel free to put any of that content in the chat for us. That helps us adapt, that helps us continually improve, everyone. So open to all of that feedback. So feel free to put that in there. Mayor Pro Tem, over to you for a moment.
I think for only spending an hour and a half, I think you did a wonderful job. I think a ton of information came in. I look forward to hearing from the other groups. Maybe they'll be even larger for the other districts as word gets out that this is available. One of the things that I didn't hear a lot of that I would actually think would be a benefit to some of this is the public learning more about how the police department operates, their extensive training, some of the obstacles they run into. And I think that would help the residents bond more or understand more of why the police do what they do. And I think this would be a wonderful opportunity for that as well. So thank you all for your input. I think it's wonderful. And thank you, Kim, you did a wonderful job facilitating. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Everyone, to that end, in addition to the feedback and comments, and lots of stuff is coming in right now, everyone. If you do have specific questions, everyone, we can appreciate that today was a very broad overview and we wanted to hear from you. We didn't get into lots of detail, but lots of people are asking questions about some specifics. Please share them with us. We will collect all of those because there's a good chance if you have that question, somebody else is probably curious about that. And so we want to be able to collect all those questions and be able to share them back out with you afterwards. So to that end, everyone, I want to say again, thank you very, very much for coming. We appreciate your willingness to try this out with us and give it a go in this format. We will continue to look at those comments and do our best to improve on them. And then I will say, everyone, stay well. Look after yourselves in this very unrestful time that we are all living through right now. And we bid you a very good night, everyone. Thank you for coming.
Good night.